morning from Antigua. So this morning we're going to be taking a 3-hour private tour with Elizabeth Bell Tours. I'm really excited. I don't even know what we're going to see yet. So
Santo Domingo for sure. We're starting there, I believe.
Okay, okay, awesome. This way we'll get a little bit more of the history of Antigua, which we're really excited about. So let's go.
All these places are beautiful.
Everywhere you turn, so beautiful.
Well manicured.
I know.
It really is.
Stunning everywhere.
In Santo Domingo, we have something special. For many people, it's simple things that have history. That fountain that you see up there.
So this is the
This is a hotel.
Santo Domingo. This is the hotel that's built on the ruins, correct?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. This is Santo Domingo.
Look at the building. It
I
probably
think this is. Actually the ruins here.
Yeah.
Actually behind here.
It very well may be. I guess we'll find out.
We're looking for Escuardo.
Yes. Oh, Escuardo?
Yes.
Ah, hello. We're taking the tour with Elizabeth Bell Tours, and costing us $35 per person for a private tour. Hey, gracias. So, this is our tour guide for today, Escuardo. Yes.
Morning.
So nice to meet you.
Yeah,
we're very
you.
excited.
Thank you for visiting Guatemala.
Oh, we absolutely love
really
Guatemala. We love history, so we're really excited about this.
By the way, right now this is, I don't know if you have been here before, but that was the really biggest property in Antigua, you know? It was created by the Dominicans, and those people came very early days when the Spaniards were here, you know? The Spaniards came down to this part of our country by 1543. Dominicans, they were already in this spot where we are by 1547. So at the beginning, how it's more than understandable, that was kind of very rustic, small houses with thatch roof, and very few of them. And slow, they were requesting a little bit more land. They need to buy some properties in the area, and finally the property became the biggest in Antigua. So it's going to be 3 blocks long by 2 blocks wide.
And that's this property that we're in now?
This is what the property is. We know it today as a Santo Domingo complex.
Okay.
But the property was included at the very beginning, at the very early days when Dominicans were here, a hospital for very poor people, indigenous, slaves, you know, homeless.
Yes.
They were treated. And in Antigua, basically, we had a lot of convents because the mission was to convert. So let's walk in Santo Domingo area. And, you know, but by this moment here, we are at the very east part of Antigua. Where you are now walking should be a very big accumulation of, you know, kind of compost.
Here you
mean? Yes, everywhere here.
Okay.
And that was very sad for Antigua, but all those buildings were abandoned after Antigua suffered in a very short period of time 3 major important earthquakes. So one of the earthquakes did to happen in 1717. We did to have a second earthquake in 1751. And we did suffer another third earthquake in 1773. So after those 3 different earthquakes, the King of Spain forgave all debts in Antigua. And that was a big motivation for people to move to the new Guatemala. And it's very important, by the way, just to clear, the real official name of this place supposed to be the noble and loyal city of St. James. But unfortunately, all the people were asking each other, where are you? Are you already in the new Guatemala? Are you still in the old Guatemala, the antique Guatemala, you know? And this is why we start to use this expression of Antigua and the new Guatemala for the new Guatemala.
Okay.
This is why we use both of those names.
And so that is the time when they changed the capital.
Exactly.
Because of the different...
1773, that was the last earthquake Antigua suffered, let's say, once the Spaniards were here. And that last one forced practically all those Spaniards to move to Guatemala City. UNESCO came because UNESCO declared Antigua protected for the,
Cultural site.
site in 1979, and we cannot actually change too many things. I mean, we cannot do anything, at least UNESCO is going to approve it.
Right.
Still today, they are doing some jobs to repair, to clean, to restore major part of the property, and make this combination between hotel, restaurant, and historical,
Well, I think that's
Right.
incredible because the thing is that a lot of the things that we've done when you go visit places like Tikal, we went to do Tikal, it's amazing, but to be able to come here to be in this and kind of be immersed in it, to have lunch or stay in a hotel and you're right here amongst
Surrounded by
that's
history.
unique
Yeah.
and incredible.
No, it's very nice. Antigua, and nearby that one is the one you were saying was erupting you saw yesterday, and it's still the farther in another direction. We have Agua, and look behind the
Scarlet Macau.
and this is the military.
Beautiful.
So the military, we practically don't have any Guatemala. The Scarlet Macau, yes. It's close to Tikal, you have a place where the Scarlet Macaws are reproducing, and they really live there. The volcano is noted today as water volcano. Back when the Spaniards just came closer to those areas, that was known as Unasco, which means very tall mountain. Yeah, but the water volcano name comes from the 1541. The Spaniards, they came to Guatemala from Mexico, 1524, and they were not fighting everybody. Because many times when we hear about the Spaniards conquer Central America, we believe they came and they were fighting and they were trying to kill everybody. No. They came and they simply were watching and looking all the people, analyzing who was the stronger, who was the most important group, who was the dangerous group in a moment.
Yes.
And in a certain moment they are going to discover the Cathedral group was really bad. I mean, the Cathedral was the braves, were the really aggressive people in the country. And so they introduced themselves like friends.
Okay.
And they wanted to make a kind of close relationship with the Cathedral. In September 1541, a big landslide came from the volcano slopes and destroyed their city. And this is the moment where the Spaniards are going to name the mountain like the water volcano because the flooding, because the water was causing this destruction.
Wow.
And so the Spaniards were considering to move the capital to different other locations in Guatemala, maybe even moving it to another different countries like Nicaragua, like Honduras, like in Chiapas.
Because Guatemala was significantly bigger, right? It was the kingdom of Guatemala.
Much more bigger, which was including the actual Chiapas state, all Guatemala, Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica.
Wow.
So if you wanted to have an idea how long is this distance, you should to maybe take an idea between Los Angeles to Nashville, Tennessee. This is the distance what Guatemala was. What is important to know then, Antigua now is going to be only the third capital of Guatemala. The first ones, when they were fighting with the Cathedral group, the second one, which was destroyed by the volcano, the third one, Antigua, destroyed by earthquakes, and the fourth one is the one we have today as the new Guatemala. And at the very beginning, there were two people from California. This is really interesting. 1920s, Antigua was completely abandoned, ruins. Nobody was interested in. Antigua was like a tiny little village with no attention, no interest, nothing. But we had Wilson Poppin from California. And this gentleman came from a family who started all the avocado tradition.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And this gentleman was looking for avocado fields in Mexico. And somebody in Mexico told him, you should go maybe to Guatemala and Honduras because they have an amazing,
The soil from the volcanoes, yeah.
And they are using avocados to shade coffee fields, Then it's a double purpose.
Yes.
Shade and profit of the fruits. And so Wilson Popenoe came to Guatemala, passing through this area, went to Honduras, where he did found maybe the most famous agricultural school in Central America. But he fell in love with Antigua. So in 1920s, he did to buy that house, the white corner, for $2,000. Pay $40 taxes,
Wow.
Americans, they were the first ones to restore a house respecting and using the ancient colonial style. And because those two people did it, many other Guatemalans start to be interested then to restore their properties in Antigua. By the way, originally, those windows, they were covered with metallic bars. Until Wilson Popenoe decided to remove those ancient metallic ones and come back to the very, very original style using wooden bars, So look at please on the sides to see the plane. If you see the patio itself, it's all covered with some stones. Even the little gardens are higher, just to allow people to work, and they don't really have to bend down to the level of the ground. And now, for example, those people who rented the place, they just put it in the middle, removable plants, which is giving some ambience. But originally, if you take some of those plants in the middle out, the patio is quite simple. We should maybe just say, in another word, a little bit sad, But if you go back to what you were describing before, with grass, flowers, plants, making it more alive, this is what Wilson Popenoe brings.
That's what he's changed. Okay,
that's one of the changes.
Wow.
And now it's becoming a general and common use of the open spaces, full of flowers, full of vegetation, in sense to making it much more alive. Itself is completely new. I mean, that was constructed maybe using ancient pieces of woods just to appear like old door, but it's a copy of an ancient one. And the knocker you can see here was designated for pedestrians. And the knocker you can see there, that was then reserved for the people coming on horseback. So this is a bronze piece representing a lion. If you remember, the Queen of Spain financed, let's say, the trips of Christopher Columbus to come to America, and so everybody respecting and following the Queen's decision was looking like, let's say, Democrats, and everybody respecting the King decisions was always looking like the Republicans. So once they used such kind of knockers like the lion, or maybe sometimes like a feminine knocker, is the two different political parties. That was
so here is like a Republican with a lion, and something more feminine would be a
Democrat. That was almost like today, have a flag outside of the province. Many people do it.
Yes.
But back in those days, they used it in knockers.
It shows their support for the king or the queen.
Hola. Gracias. Oh, wow.
Is this the place? Is this the place where Itchy Boots came and parked her bike?
Oh, maybe. I think so.
I think this is it. This kind of
Someone we
looks
watch on
familiar.
YouTube that travel.
Maybe.
Oh,
So this is San Francisco right here.
this is the church is San Francisco. Oh my goodness.
I need to point maybe 2 or 3 details. You know,
Let's switch out again.
Yeah.
So I can get you over.
Okay.
She's prettier than me. So we need some good, video of pretty people.
good looking, good advertising.
Yes, two good looking people here. Keep me behind the camera.
So, San Francisco is one of the 3 religious orders to come first to Antigua, and they need to construct their churches to delimitate the city.
Okay.
San Francisco here on the south, Santo Domingo on the east, and Immersed Church on the north.
So they've got 3 of them that actually borders the city.
The city, exactly.
Yeah,
But
okay.
we didn't mention yet anything about the west side,
Right.
because that was the lower part of the valley,
Right.
and unfortunately that was the place where all the waves, sewage, and the raining water was washing everything down.
So they didn't.
In that location, they need to create a small little area where all the homeless, the very poor people were designated to live to. And by the way, is the place where we had it San Lazaro Hospital, which was in charge to take care of the very high, delicate diseases, like I would like to mention something very quickly, like leprosy, cholera, like smallpox, and such kind of other diseases, which were extremely bad those days. So all those people were sent into the west side of Antigua. Anyway, San Francisco here, behind us there. This is the place where they didn't want to really convert people, forcing them to become Christians. They were trying to find all the little details to change the mind of the people. Like, for example, in this space where we are not anymore on the street, but we are not yet in the church itself. And that was like an open air chapel.
So that they could come, they could hang out, they could feel comfortable.
Spaniards were inviting all the indigenous people and said, you don't really have to come in the church, but you can come closer to the church in a very open air space, friendly for you. And we, religious people, we are coming out from the church and giving you a religious service, a mass, where you prefer to stay,
Now, I also heard too that they kind of combined maybe their festivals, the indigenous festivals, with like religious things, so that
Yes.
kind of make.
Like, for example, just to give you an idea about that, those people need to create a rosary made of corn.
Okay.
Husk,
Yeah.
and in instance to have in each of the bowls of the rosary, like the stations, they put in some candies,
Okay. Yeah.
and they were praying the rosary with little kids, and all those kids, they were exciting to pray the next part of the rosary because they knew they
They could eat the candy.
candies in all those different
Awesome. Wow.
bowls they
Yeah.
had it.
Yeah.
Or
I was under the impression it was more force.
no, in,
maybe there was some,
in
but
Guatemala not
not in
that
Guatemala.
much.
No.
For example,
Wow.
the Inquisition process was not as extreme as it was in another countries.
Okay.
That was much more friendly, and that was slow, trying to really convert people into Christianism. And this is why what you were mentioning before is really important. Those Spaniards here, they really were so successful to mix the indigenous
As opposed to force.
festivals with the Christian ones.
Right.
So, just to give you another different perspective, the church itself was extremely damaged, practically destroyed to almost nothing during the earthquakes. They lost the whole roof, they lost one of the bell towers, and that was possible only to restore it because in 1960s, some Catholic people in Guatemala, the government, and Adveniat group from Germany gave us some money, and they roofed it again, and the dome, the white dome you were mentioned before in the back, is a copy of another church which is located 2 more blocks farther on the south, which resists the earthquakes. And so they need to copy the dome to replicate it here, because the other dome really comes from those colonial days.
Now, what about one of the other things that I had heard as well is that the indigenous people, like you said, they trained them and painting and sculpting. Didn't they kind of try and incorporate some, like for example, corn or snake or different things in the church? Yeah,
all the time. All the time they're trying to incorporate or to leave a little detail,
little part of
which
themselves.
was showing that was made or that was belonging to an indigenous tribe.
Awesome.
So
yeah.
this is it. So behind his church, he did to found a small school to teach the illiterates of Antigua, teaching to those indigenous little kids to read and write. He was creating the hospital for handicaps. For the first time in the history, trying to teach to girls who spoke one of those Mayan languages to become a teacher, because his mentality was, once we educate the girl, we are going to educate the family, and once we educate the family, we are going to be able to educate the whole society. So this gentleman passed away a few years later, and once he was already dead, those Franciscans accept him because all what he did before. And so later he's going to be beatified and canonized to become the only one saint we have in Guatemala. But because he did to found this hospital for handicaps, he is looking like the saint who take care of handicaps. And this is why this church, you have a lot of people coming every Sunday, because those are like pilgrims who come to visit his tomb and asking him for something,
And it's Saint who?
The name of the saint is Pedro de Betancourt, and this is the whole expression is saying Santo Hermano Pedro. This is the expression we use today, because if we say San Peter, it's going to be confused with others.
Yes.
So we say Santo Hermano Pedro. This is the new expression we have. But this is explaining you why
There's
we
so many.
have that many people, and why all of them, like pilgrims, comes to visit his tomb.
Wonderful.
This is practically the only one place where you can still see some of the real Guatemalan families. I mean, the ones dressing with the
traditional
outfits,
Traditional skirt here.
because they mostly come to visit the tomb of this gentleman. In another churches of Antigua, those people are going to visit it, but they don't feel as good as they can feel here. So they come to sell snacks, fruits for the people who come to the church. Those buildings, which were 3, by the way, they were constructed to give some facility of water or some, disposition of water for the people who didn't want to move to Guatemala City once Antigua was destroyed.
So this is their public laundromat.
Exactly. This is a public laundromat, which is still in use, by the way. They are going to come here and they wash their clothes. So this is why in some days of the week, the plaza is going to be full of people, the ones who come to visit the patients in that hospital. It's noted as the Hospital of San Pedro. San Pedro. And the hospital was basically designated for the handicapped. That was the only one hospital which survived practically those earthquakes. By the way, 40 different organizations from US are supporting the social work they do here, and they originally had it only 2 surgery rooms. Last year, at the beginning of 2021, US government gave us $821,000 to construct 3 more surgery rooms. Wow. Right now they have 5 with the really top equipment they need for plastic surgery.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And then this is why the building actually is still in use as a hospital.
Right here is not a restaurant, it's a Commodore. So a Commodore means it does not have any fixed menu. So they go to
Continue this way.
they go to the market, pick up what they've got fresh from the market. They put down what they got right there for the day. So it's not a typical like.
And this is warm here. They cook
It's not warm, it's
tortillas
hot.
here.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
tomato.
Well,
Okay.
she's just spraying it with water, it's like just bubbling.
I saw that. Yeah. So they do the tortillas here.
It's definitely hot.
Wow, I've never heard. That's really cool.
So Commodore.
Comador.
Yeah. He said an eating place.
Oh, eating place. Okay.
So usually lunches are very cheap, let's say, or in other words, affordable prices, because it's related with the hospital. So many people who come to visit the patient in the hospital, they don't have enough money to go to pay for a real restaurant. So they come here and they get something which is quite affordable, and they know it's fresh for today. This is why the Commodore is here.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
And in this building here, they were teaching canon laws, and medicines, you know? So both buildings together became the first university of Guatemala, opened in 1676. So I just wanted to come up here because you have a better perspective of what buildings are. And just remember then, please, on the right side one, they were teaching philosophy and theology. On the left side one, they were teaching medicines, laws, and canon laws. So if you keep in mind laws and medicines, they are not really directly related with the church. But theology and philosophy, yes. And Guatemalan government expelled all the different religious orders from the country, making this famous separation of the religious and the politician power.
So basically what they did here is kind of like separation of church and state.
Exactly. Basically
kind of.
Exactly. This is what it happened.
And when was that?
1871.
1871.
And we have just a small little area which is in use as a church. A major part, I mean something like 80 or even 85% of the ancient building will be ruins of this church. So let's first please to take a look at the used part of the cathedral.
They have the wooden bars here as well.
Yeah. So this is another view of what the cathedral originally was. The main door we just saw there, and all the way through 100 yards to the main altar and capilla real. So 3 different facilities in this complex: the sacristan house, and bishop palace, and the cathedral itself. You know.
Okay.
So once after that was severely damaged, practically destroyed by the earthquakes, they decided to use this little segment you can see painted a little bit in red here as the actual church. By the way, this is important. we know it as the cathedral, but the real official name supposed to be Parroquia de San Jose, because the only one cathedral we have is in Guatemala City today. You know? And so those are going to be the Parroquia de San Jose here, and the ruins of the cathedral, the rest. So, talking about the church itself, Emily, the church here originally constructed since August 1543. And that was exactly what you see now, except the roof was wooden and thatch. You know? So, and then because the thatch roof was damaged very constantly by termites, animals, they needed to renovate it every certain time. The walls, they needed to be replastered very often, you know, because the humidity, because everything. So by the 1650s, they saw how Joseph de Porres, the architect, was finishing the San Pedro's church around the corner, and they decided to make a major renovation of this cathedral. So Joseph de Porres, after to finish that other church, was in charge to take off all the roof here and construct the new roof using domes and those big columns and everything you see now. Unfortunately, that was destroyed by the earthquakes, and because that was domes, about 2 to 2.5 foot thick, fell here. And once everything was down here, that was an accumulation of debris higher than a normal size of a person. Means, in other words, the first people who came to visit the cathedral after the earthquakes, they were walking above us. And this is why when you are filming and you see all those walls, the lower part of the walls will be severely damaged, no more plaster and this, because the whole humidity of those debris for many long years have been damaging everything, you know? I don't know if somebody tell you already this, but Guatemala will be the third area under the risk of earthquakes in America. The first one obviously is California, with all the different earthquakes and tremors they have. The second one is going to be Chile in the southern part of America, and the third one will be Guatemala and Salvador. So we need to reinforce all those columns and walls, because constantly we are still suffering some shakes, some movements, some earthquakes. So moving here, we are placing ourselves right just behind the main altar I was showing you there. So stopping here, take a look at this direction, please. And completing.
So this wall here is the place where it stopped the altar that we showed before when Amy walked in the front door. And originally it was that plus this. So if you can just get an idea of how huge this church was originally, it's just incredible. Escuardo, what is those fireworks or?
It's 12 o'clock of a Sunday, and they announce as the end or the beginning of the religious service in some churches.
Oh, okay.
Far away to have the toll with the bell. They just explode those big kind of let's say firecrackers to announce the mass is beginning or the mass is ending, you know. So you're gonna hear them again by 1 o'clock when is the end of the mass.
You see there's too much mortar in between the bricks, and if you touch it you can see how fragile it is. So that's part of the challenge.
Part of the challenge of restoring it, or the reason that it collapsed? Or a little of both?
A little of both, yeah. Correct.
A huge church. Very big. So Escuardo was saying that you had basically 3 different ways. We're standing on top of catacombs right now. People are buried below here. And he was saying that in the church you've got 3 different levels. The first amount of money that you're paying. If you paid, you can get into Catacombs. Don't necessarily know where it is, and it's opened up a couple times a year on special occasions, so you can go visit on a couple different times. The second level of people is they get buried in the Catacombs, and a special they know exactly where the area is. But then if you've got pay more money, you go to the
Chapels.
Chapels, yeah.
Chapels. So those are the ones that pay a lot of money. You could go visit them. You knew where they were buried, and you could visit them any time.
Yeah.
Which it's a great money-making deal for the church.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Shane, can you take the water so I can film? Thank you. So we're going down into the catacombs.
We should just mention quickly, the whole roof have been recently renovated. You can see bricks and concrete, but originally that was only a kind of window here to give some ventilation and some kind of light.
Yes.
You know? And then this room was basically used for the funeral itself. I mean, the body was someplace exposed. Some of the relatives, they were sitting all around. And the people who came to show them their condolence came down and were speaking with them a little while, you know? So after 24 hours of this kind of exposition and funeral process, the next step was passing to a general room where they wait all the process itself. So the real funeral was happening once they move it here.
Hello.
So that was the place where they were just placing the different bodies, and sometimes, if that many people came to visit the relatives, they were even able to use this space as part of the funeral. You know? But after then, everything was fully finished. So they were still passing to a smaller, much private area, which is some of those different places. You can go to them on and so, what they were using then, some of the walls to place the different bodies.
So they place them in the wall?
In the wall, you know, in the wall.
Yeah.
Or if that was already too many people here, they just take out the bones of one of them to clear the space for a new person coming, and the bones were all accumulated in this area, which is noted as an ossuary. Behind this is a kind of big hole where all the remains were removed.
Wow.
Now it's all clear because the human remains could be a focus of certain infections or other diseases, you know. But originally, you should imagine that huge, enormous hole was full of remains and bones, all mixed, you know. But still, people came down and visited some of the relatives down here.
Wow.
So, how you were mentioned, that was only open in special occasions of the year. I mean, maybe request of the family for a special event, or open completely new building in certain specific days of the year.
Wow.
And this was, I see all these like marks here and stuff like this, just kind of hand scraped out.
Yes.
It's eerie, huh?
I just need to point you, those little windows are the steps on the street side.
Oh, yeah.
You can just see how they have you.
And this wood here?
Oh, those were part of the inside catacomb facilities, you know?
Okay, yeah.
The original wood.
Yeah, original woods coming from those 16th, 1700s.
We would like to extend a special thank you to our knowledgeable and wonderful guide Escuardo with Elizabeth Bell Tours. You'll find a link in the description. Join us next time when we learn about the history of jade mining in Guatemala. We take a wild ride in a tuk-tuk and enjoy some stunning views overlooking Antigua. See you next time.